What is the test development process you use for your speaking tests?
Well, we have very rigorous processes, and we're very rigorous in our development and validation methods. And we adhere to standard procedures in test development theory and practice as we go about this. But so to take you through the steps briefly, first of all, we develop our item specifications and our test specifications. This tells us what has to be tested, the purpose of the testing, who's going to be tested. And this informs test design. From this, we can start developing our items. We train our item writers, we review our items, we take our items to the recording studio, and we review them again, and we conduct quality control checks again. Once we have developed a body of thousands of items for our question pool, we can then field test them and let real test takers try them out. We have native speakers and non-native speakers, learners of English, performing on all our items. We collect in their test responses. We collect many thousands of test responses, and we collect many responses on every single item. And then we have to transcribe them and rate them. So the test responses, the sound files, are made available to expert transcribers who listen to the sound file with their headphones on, sit at a computer, and type out exactly what they've heard. And we use this to train the recognizer. This is what the test taker said. In fact, we train them with certain procedures to help the recognizer. For example, if a word was mispronounced, we code that in a special way to tell the recognizer, this is how a native speaker says this, this is how a learner says this word when they mispronounce it. Or this is a common mispronunciation of this attempted word. They also have special coding for mouth noises, tongue clicks, breaths, background noises, irrelevant noises. It's all coded into the transcription to get maximum recognition accuracy from our recognizer. So we have the sound files, we have the transcription of the sound file, what was said, and then we have ratings. We have our team of expert raters who are highly qualified. They all have MAs in linguistics at the very least, and they rate the sound files for features of spoken performance like pronunciation and fluency. And with these three pieces of information, the audio response, the transcription, and the rating, we can then train our scoring models to predict how a human native, how a human expert judge would evaluate that response. And we use advanced statistical modeling such as item response theory. We establish item parameters for all of our items and conduct quality control checks again. At this point, we may decide which items to throw out, which items to keep, which need to go back and be recycled and perhaps changed. We conduct checks such as, could all the native speakers answer them properly? Is there anything tricky among the items, and so on. So at each step so far, we narrow down our initial collection of items until we've just retained the very best items. There's still thousands of them, but the very best ones go into our final question pool. And then we want to check that everything's worked as expected. So although the development process is nearly finished, we have to conduct a validation to see that people score as expected when they perform on the test. So here we take a validation set of test takers. Typically 150 is a good number, sometimes 200. And these test takers represent the target population of various levels of proficiency. They will perform on our test. Their test responses will be run through the automated scoring model and given to our pool of expert human raters, and the two sets of scores will be correlated. we should achieve a very high correlation above 0.95. And that confirms that the scoring models are operating as expected, that the items are eliciting the language that's expected, and that the test is performing properly. A follow-up validation is to then have those test takers take another test, such as the TOEIC or the IELTS or the TOEFL, and we'll see how those two sets of scores correlate. This is a concurrent validation. And when we do this, typically the two sets of scores line up and tell us, yes, these tests are all tapping the same construct, spoken language ability. So that's an overview of our test development process.